The Minnesota Vikings are a total dumpster fire. And coming up on today's edition of Vikings Now by Chat Sports, we're going to be diving into truly how bad it is for the Minnesota Vikings. This was a team that won 14 games just a season ago, and now they truly are one of the worst teams in the National Football League. So we're going to dive into it, but we got a lot of topics to discuss. And we're going to start off with the Vikings brass, and that being Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. So we'll discuss, is Kevin O'Connell on the hot seat? Should he be fired? And then I will give you guys my take on Kwesi, as I believe he should be fired this morning as I'm filming this video. And then there was some media manipulation that I want to dive into. A report came out before the game. Adam Schefter tweeted out that the Vikings loved Max Brosmer. So I got some takes on that. Then we'll talk about the QB situation. And I do want to give you guys my take on this offseason and the one move that the Vikings cannot make because it will keep them in NFL purgatory. But if you guys could, hit that subscribe button today. It is going to be a hectic time around the Minnesota Vikings. I don't think anyone's job is safe, especially the GMs. I do think Kevin O'Connell will for sure, be the head coach next season. Do I agree with that? No, but I think there is a chance that GM Kwesi Adofo-Mensah does get fired. There's going to be a lot of changes. So if you guys want to stay up to date on it all, I appreciate all the support on the channel. But make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and lock us in. And listen, I'm not trying to, get a take out or get a hot take out there, be hyperbolic, but I truly do believe Kevin O'Connell should be fired and the Vikings should promote Brian Flores. And I have never seen somebody's stock fall as much as Kevin O'Connell's has over the last 12 months, where even before the season, I was saying there aren't three coaches in the NFL that I would have over him. It was really only Sean McVay and Andy Reid. I thought Kevin O'Connell was on an upward trajectory in his coaching career, but has gone the completely other way. And you know who he reminds me of? This guy, Mike McDaniel. He is Mike McDaniel, just with a better PR team, because he won the Coach of the Year. Everybody, crowned him as the QB whisperer. He can figure it all out. He can make any quarterback look good. He's just Mike McDaniel with better PR. Because what do both these guys do? They win a lot of regular season games. They both have soft football teams, but they don't get it done in the playoffs because they are soft head coaches, and the teams take on what the head coach and his identity is. And the Vikings are just an extremely soft football team, and I'm tired of watching it because every single week we go into the game, we're like, hey, we got to establish the run. We got to get some quick passing game going. We got to be the more physical football team. That never happens. And this is not just for this season. This has been under the entire tenure in the Kevin O'Connell era. We have never been able to run the ball. We have never been a physical football team. Now, Brian Flores, his side of the football, they've always been physical. They have always flown around, and they're still locked in. Where on the other side, Kevin O'Connell's offense, they're checked out. They're done playing for their head coach, but that's not the case with Brian Flores. So the Vikings, you should let go of Kevin O'Connell, promote Brian Flores, and go get a Brian Dable as offensive coordinator. But what I also think is more concerning about Kevin O'Connell is I think the league's figured him out. I'm not trying to say he's got a gimmicky offense because he does have some, obviously him as just a pass game coordinator, he is still, top of the league. Like, he's got some great pass game concepts. But in terms of his whole offense, if you just clamp down on that, Kevin O'Connell really reminds me of like an elite pitcher in baseball who's just got one pitch. Like, he just got that 104-mile-an-hour fastball, but he doesn't have a change. He doesn't have a curveball. He doesn't have a sinker, a slider, whatever it may be. He's got no second or third gear that his offense can go to. So once the league's figured him out, he hasn't adjusted. Like, we have seen Kyle Shanahan adjust. We have seen Sean McVay adjust. We have seen Matt LaFleur. That Packers offense went into Detroit and hung 31 points on him. Why is that? Because Matt LaFleur adjusted to his quarterback and what this offense needed. And I'm tired of the quarterback excuses. I really am. Because anybody who's defending KOC, well, how is he supposed to win with that quarterback play? Well, twofold. Who had the biggest say in who was going to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings? I find it hard to believe that it was not Kevin O'Connell. And also, too, if you do have a young rookie quarterback, why don't you change your offense? Why don't you help the young quarterback out? Why don't you run the football? Why don't you get him some easy looks instead of just having the same offense that you ran with Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold, where Kirk was a top 12 quarterback in the league when he was in Minnesota. Darnold was playing at a top 7 level, and now you got a 22-year-old in J.J. McCarthy or a UDFA and Max Brosmer, and you're just keeping the offense the same. That's on the head coach. His inability to adjust this offense to fit the archetype of quarterback he has is incredibly concerning. Now, if I wanted to defend KOC, little tinfoil hat theory here, what if ownership stepped in this offseason? And what if ownership sat down with Kevin O'Connell and said, hey, we have to give J.J. McCarthy a chance. And we have to give him the keys to the franchise. We want this. And maybe KOC didn't have much as a big of say as I think he did in this decision, which I also find it hard to be true. But what if KOC is trying to spite the Vikings ownership and the Vikings brass, being like, hey, you guys wanted this guy. I'm not changing my offense. I'm going to run the same exact offense I did with Darnold as I did with Kirk Cousins, and he's not changing. And KOC has legitimately killed 3 quarterbacks in one season. Legitimately has ruined careers in one season. One, Carson Wentz, he just left them hanging out there to dry. He got him hurt in that Chargers game. That was, I feel bad for Carson Wentz. Honestly, shout out to you, Carson. I was ripping you, and I feel bad. You are a tough MFer, and you put your body on the line for this team, and your head coach just left you out there to dry. But he's killed J.J. McCarthy's confidence. What do you think Max Brosmer's thinking today? He just had 5 turnovers and threw for 130 yards. You killed his confidence, too. And my final take on the Kevin O'Connell situation, and why I think the Vikings do need to move on, is you will never win a big game with Kevin O'Connell's pass-heavy offense. Because if you want to win games in December, in January in this league, no matter if it's 1970, 1980, 2010, or the year of 2025, you have to run the football. If you can't run the football, you will not win big games. If you are not a physical team, you will not win big games. And with Kevin O'Connell as a coach, it's not just this year. This has been a problem since he has taken over as the head coach for the Minnesota Vikings. You are a soft team, you're a finesse team, and you can't run the ball. That will not change. They need to let him go and move on and get somebody else as the head coach for the Minnesota Vikings, and I think it should be Brian Flores. But you guys, let me know your thoughts. Should the Vikings fire Kevin O'Connell? I know this is a polarizing topic right now. I do think I am in the minority of this because, if you would have told myself in August you would be making a video here on December 1st talking about firing Kevin O'Connell, I would have said, you're out of your damn mind. But you guys, let me know your thoughts. Give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no. Now let's talk about the GM, because even though I think Kevin O'Connell, I'm giving most of my attention to him, the real problem starts up top, and that's with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. And if he isn't fired this morning, it will be organizational malpractice, because this offseason was truly the worst in franchise history. And I just want to ask you guys something. What advantage does Kwesi give us? What does he do well? He's the worst drafting GM in the league by a wide margin. That's not even debatable. All right, he had a couple good free agency classes. He brought in Jonathan Grenard. Well, you also let Daniil Hunter walk, and Daniil Hunter is still a top 5 edge in the league. Okay, you brought in Blake Cashman. That's a good pickup. You brought in Andrew Van Ginkel, even though Van Ginkel signing, I chalk that up more to Brian Flores and Van Ginkel wanting to play with his former DC inflow. And also in the trade market, he got fleeced on the TJ Hawkinson deal. He has not made a good trade as the GM. So what does he do well? He's bad in free agency. He's bad in the draft. He's bad in the trade market. He gives the Vikings no competitive advantage. And with how bad of an offseason this was, somebody needs to be held accountable. Somebody has to go. You just went into Seattle and scored 0 points against the quarterback that you let walk. You're 4-8. Somebody needs to be fired. Somebody needs to be held accountable, but I don't think that's going to happen because the Wolves are cool with just being mediocre, and they're cool with winning 4 to 10 to 12, 13 games every year, but you will never go on a deep playoff run with this ownership and this GM and with this head coach. And I'm calling it right now. Kevin O'Connell is going to start to distance himself from the front office. There's going to be some reports out there where it's like, breaking. I'm calling it. It's going to be Diana Rossini's going to put this out. It's going to be headline. Kevin O'Connell did not agree with the Vikings' decision to move off Sam Darnold this offseason. I promise you that will come out because he doesn't want to get the backlash. He wants all that nonsense around the quarterback position to fall in the front office and not on his shoulders. And also, this was a complete joke yesterday. The Vikings feeding, not a local beat reporter, the biggest NFL reporter out there, Adam Schefter, that the front office was high on Max Brosmer was complete media manipulation. And you may be saying, well, why is that? Because I think people are trying to save their jobs. I think they understand that if Brosmer went out there and he had a good game, that might be like Kwesi's way of saving his job. Where it's like, I was all over on Brosmer. Or if it was Grigson, he was saying, I was all in on Brosmer. Like, I'm going to take credit for that. Well, now he looks terrible. He was awful yesterday. He had the worst EPA per play in the NFL in a single game this season. He was horrific. But all those reports, the Vikings are excited. Greg Olsen started the Fox broadcast yesterday saying the Vikings are so high on Max Brosmer. I'm excited to watch this guy play. He was one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen. in NFL history. And I feel bad for him. I don't even want to criticize Brosman because he shouldn't have been out there. He's a UDFA. He wasn't ready to go. But the Vikings put him out there, and they just killed another quarterback this season. And for a guy who's supposed to be the QB whisperer from a GM who just got an extension this offseason, it's a crime what they're doing to this team. Now, we'll talk about the QB situation, talk about a take I have for this offseason here in a second. But today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. And it is a holiday season, and it's the best time of year for sports. You got bowl games, basketball and football matchups, playoff pushes. It is all happening at once. And while you and I are out here making decisions every day, what gifts to buy, what to eat, which game to watch, there's one place where it feels good to be right, and that is Prize Picks. Now, download the Prize Picks app today. Plug in promo code CONS, get hooked up with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Now, Prize Picks has a new feature. They have early payouts. So if your lineup gets off to a hot start, you may have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. And it's super simple to play. All you got to do is pick more or less on at least two player stats. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in. So download the Prize Picks app today. Plug in that promo code CONS. Get hooked up with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code CONS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. A shout out to Prize Picks for sponsoring today's show. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. This is an obvious take here. The Vikings have the worst quarterback room in the NFL by a wide margin. Like, you even got teams like the Titans, the Saints, like some of these bottom feeders. Like, maybe the Jets could give you a run for the money, but Tyrod Taylor would be the best quarterback on this Vikings team by a wide margin. You got the worst room in the league. I mean, just looking at this graphic, it is horrific, man. I mean, JJ, he's looked like an all-time bust so far. Brosmer, he's a UDFA. You got John freaking Wolford, and you got Desmond Ridder. So you see these four on screen? Let's compare them to last year when you had Sam Darnold, when you had Nick Mullins, we had J.J. McCarthy waiting in the reins, and then on your practice squad, you had Daniel Jones. What happened? And I think it's two things. Either ownership stepped in, like I was saying on the front half of today's show, saying, hey, KOC, you got to roll out with that young quarterback no matter what. Or Kevin O'Connell's ego stepped in, and he said, hey, I can make any quarterback work. Any quarterback can thrive in my offense. I'm the guy. I'm the quarterback whisperer. So it's either his ego or ownership stepping in, but it's a disgrace that they let this guy walk out the door. And also, I will take accountability. I was pushing the take that the Vikings should move off Sam Darnold, and I was completely wrong. I can't believe I said that. And my roommate, Marshall Green, he had a very simplistic take. He was saying, well, you just can't let a guy who threw for 35 touchdowns, won 14 games, walk out the door. And I was like, oh, that sounds a little too simplistic. But it was almost like so simplistic that it makes sense. And it was just so insane that they let this guy out the door. It's a joke. So if you guys want to show Sam Darnold some love, type those 14s. Now about the QB situation heading into the offseason. The Vikings need to ride this out with J.J. McCarthy next year, no matter what. Now, you can bring in competition. You can bring in like a veteran backup. You can go get a Jacoby Brissett or like one of these high-end backups or a Tyrod Taylor, one of these guys. But J.J. McCarthy needs to be guy this upcoming season because you need to leave purgatory. Because, listen, I could see the Vikings, if they go out and they trade for a guy like a Trevor Lawrence or a Mac Jones, like, you know what's going to happen? If they trade for Mac Jones, the Vikings are going to win 10 games. Everybody's going to be back on KOC's bandwagon. Oh, look, you get him a competent quarterback, KOC can win you some football games. But then what will happen? You will lose wild card weekend to a better team who is more physical, who can run the ball. Can't do it. But also, and I'll actually give you guys this take in a second, but if J.J. McCarthy sucks, you will get a top 5 pick in a loaded quarterback draft in 2027. I don't think the Vikes will take a quarterback this year, but if you ride it out with McCarthy, if he works out, okay, you got a franchise quarterback. If he doesn't work out, then you're back in the seat to draft a quarterback the following season because you probably win 3 or 4 games. But I don't think that's going to happen because the Vikings brass, they understand they're on the hot seat. And I think they're going to add a veteran to save their jobs because they understand if we get Mac Jones, we'll win 9, 10 games. We'll be all right. What does that get us? No playoff wins. So the Vikings brass, they will add a veteran. It will piss me off. And that's going to be the move of the offseason. The Vikings will trade for Mac Jones. We're going to get reports all over the place that, oh, they love Mac Jones. KOC views Mac Jones as a Super Bowl caliber quarterback that he can win playoff games with. Kwesi loves him. Like, all this nonsense that comes out of this organization. Their seat is hot, and they will go add a veteran to save their jobs instead of riding this out. But you guys give me your best guess on this one. who would be QB1 for the Vikings next season. Drop that name down below. We'll get on out of here. Let's go Vikes.